Hello and welcome to Focus IR. Today I'm joined by Marcelo Bravo, the Chief Business Officer for BSF Enterprise, the owner of clinical and cellular agriculture company 3D Biotissues. We're going to go through plenty today, lots in the agenda because you published a portfolio update. So we'll go through the highlights shortly. But firstly, I'd like you just to set the tone for us, if you would, Marcelo, and just briefly explain your strategy of the business.
Okay, great. Well, first, thank you for having me, and good morning. So BSFE, Bio-Sustainable Future Enterprise, is a company that is basically moving forward with the technology of 3D Biotissues, a company that was acquired. 3D Biotissues is a company that developed a very deep and very broad tissue engineering platform. Tissue engineering is the field of basically creating tissues outside the body in a manufacturing environment. And it started in regenerative medicine, so this company leverages over 15 years of research, specifically in the development of corneal tissue. Corneas are a type of skin. That's how the company started. It created some unique intellectual property, a strong point of difference that I'll mention later. And this technology can be leveraged across a whole range of applications. And so the strategy is basically to move forward this technology from regenerative medicine all the way out to cultivated meat, leather, and so on. So the full range of applications via developing specific companies, like we're going to talk about Ketato, which is all about regenerative medicine in corneas, via joint ventures. We created a joint venture with a technology company to create a platform to produce cultivated meat, or via acquisition. But basically, it's about building and moving forward to the world this industrial biotechnology platform in tissue engineering.
All right, let's maybe dig into the portfolio now and talk more about this lab-grown leather. What progress have you made and what's the opportunity here?
Okay, so lab-grown leather is one I'm really excited about, okay? And basically, because what we are doing, what we have achieved is significant, is monumental, right? We've made the first leather in a lab that is real leather. There are a lot of people trying to do this. There's a whole industry creating bio alternatives to leather. So these are materials made from banana peels or from recycled materials. Typically, they bring in plastics. Those are leather alternatives, but they're not leather, and they smell like plastic, or they're half plastic, or whatever they may be. There are people trying to make leather, but the problem is that in tissue engineering, and this is the problem we resolved, you need to create a structure. Imagine you need to create cells, as in your skin, in a three-dimensional matrix. And in order to do that in a lab, you need to put a scaffold in. The cells need to grow in a scaffold. And those are additives. Those are polymers you put in order for the cells to create their structure. We are able to create three-dimensional tissue structures without these scaffolds, without these additives. So our end results, our skin, is actually real skin. And therefore, we can make real leather with the properties of leather, with the smell of leather, with the strength and flexibility of leather. And that's monumental, and it has created a lot of excitement. We've gone initially to the top luxury houses in the world, luxury goods. That leather is the supreme luxury good, and we are engaged in collaborations with the main ones, basically. And I'm a business development person. I'm always going through the door, trying to go through the door with big companies. Worked in the pharmaceutical industry. I've worked in cell therapies. I've worked in advanced materials. The traction and excitement we're creating within that industry for me is significant, and we're making great inroads, and that makes it just very, very exciting. The announcement we made was all around. We've now standardized. We've made the material in the lab, but I guess we've now demonstrated we can make it consistently And we have a protocol that we can give to a technician that's not an expert cell biologist, and they can replicate it and make the same material. And that allows us to move to the next stage, which is critical, which is industrializing that protocol, because right now it's made in a lab by scientists.
Fascinating. Something else that's fascinating, you actually alluded to this one. It's the Ketato Ltd, your treatment with the eye tissue that you're going to explain to us. And also there's another product on the horizon in this regard as well. Tell us more about your plans for this first in-human clinical trials.
It's about corneal tissue engineering applications. And specifically, there's been a collaboration with a long-standing collaboration with the university in Canada, and we are taking that technology forward. And that's different to what we typically do, which is making tissues outside the body to then bring to the body. This one is in situ tissue engineering. So it basically means we put a liquid on your body, in this case in your eye, and that creates the tissue there, right? And it repairs damage, right? So that's described technically as in situ, in place tissue engineering. And we have this great technology, but the first step is not going to be in human. The first step is going to be in animal, simply because it's faster and simpler and quite valuable. So we are preparing and getting ready to start clinical trials, veterinary, in animal, horse and dogs, I believe, with the idea of fast-tracking commercialization in that market, most likely in North America next year. And that's going to keep us busy. Remember, these are small companies. This is a small company trying to do a lot. That's going to keep us quite busy, but it's going to demonstrate and create value, because that's a significant value inflection point right there. And the idea is to follow with the in-human application. But as you can imagine, in-human is going to be much more complex. Just thinking of the type of clinical trial, the regulatory hurdles and whatnot, it's going to take more time and more resource. And we're probably not going to see human applications, before 2028. I think that's what we said in the announcement. But, if you just get all those cats and dogs in the U.S. that pet lovers, and there was something in the news, I think just last week, saying in the U.S. people spend more money in their pets than in their kids. If you can think of all those dogs that are getting old, the treatment, it was developed actually in the context of dogs, could create quite a lot of value and excitement.
Oh yeah, we're certainly animal lovers, aren't we? We spend a lot on them. Nothing is too much. Let's talk about 3D biotissues then. So you're currently in the process of launching your new CytoBoost media additive. Tell us more about this. What's it going to be used for, and what's the market for such a product like this?
So 3D Biotissues is a company that created all the technologies, right? So it's about tissue engineering. So it's about cells and how we instruct the cells to grow three-dimensional structures. But it's also, the company has developed their own media additives. Cells grow in media. They're cultured in liquid with food, and that's the way it happens in your body, and that's the way it happens in the lab. The company has developed its own media additives. So we talked a lot about CityMix, which is media additive developed for the cultivated meat industry to basically cut costs. And scientifically, these are called macromolecular crowders, which means they're big molecules that push the cells together. The media is liquid and the cells are in suspension, but with these crowders, basically the cells are pushed together, and that provides for all kinds of efficiencies. So the whole idea of these additives is to, increase proliferation, cut the use of all these things you need to give the cells to grow, which are very expensive and all that. Now, so that was CityMix, which is growing, and we're doing we're running successful trials with some of the leading cultivated meat companies, and that will grow with the cultivated meat industry. But we basically realized, hey, this technology has huge application in biopharma. I come from a biopharma background. I was working, developing a cancer vaccine based on a cellular therapy. So worked a lot with cells. And when you're working with cells, the biggest challenge you have, and there's a whole industry out there making vaccines, out of viruses, viral vectors. There's a whole industry making monoclonal antibodies. Your cutting edge therapeutics are all made by cells in cell factories. And the biggest challenge is yield, how much product you get out of those cells. And by applying the same technology we apply to the cultivated meat industry to create this additive, which we call CityMix, we can create additives for the biopharma industry. And the nice thing about that is that we're not reinventing the wheel. It's the same technology we already developed and we already understand, but applied to different applications, initially in the research and development side of the industry. People working in labs, people working in academia, people working in R&D, but then translating to manufacturing processes that use cells. And the beauty of it is that, you use very little. When you talk an additive, you use, very small amounts, but they're highly prized. So it's a great evolution of our media additives business, and we're going to be launching the initial range for some initial very specific applications in the next couple of quarters.
Fascinating stuff. Thank you so very much indeed. And I do suggest people watching this head to your website, because there's plenty more detail there as to what you do. And it's certainly going to be something for the future, the development of leather and skin in labs. It's really something that people might want to get more detail on there. But thank you so very much indeed, Marcelo Bravo, the Chief Business Officer there of BSF Enterprise.